Knoxville, North Carolina. I drive, line, quick fuel team. They're in. Well, what you can't do is be 237 on the tree against Ty Tutterow, and unfortunately David Monday, he was late. Laid down another good run, though, 369.203, but Ty Tutterow, A to B, and he was gone. Never looked back, 370.193 the speed, and they will get that race car ready for round 2 of competition.
PDRA Pro 632, presented by PTC. We need you. PDRA Pro 632, presented by PTC. We need you for round number 1 of eliminations. Yeah, 370 with a 1 to a 369.5. That's a great lap by David Monday, but unfortunately, a little tardy on the starting line.
Yeah, that's a tough loss right there because they had a car that would hang right with Ty Tutterow, and heard a pop down there, and I believe it was Ty's machine. And a little bit of fluid out there on the racing surface. We go back on the FloRacing instant replay. Look at the little sachet down low for Ty Tutterow. Kept with it though and popped a burst panel, it sounded like. And you could see he was down on mile an hour, so it was starting to hurt itself before a 660-foot cone. Trackside spotters, safety teams out there taking a look at things. As soon as the racing surface is good to go, send our next pair here in Pro Boost this afternoon.
All right, drivers getting the command. Drivers getting the command to fire the engines. Ooh, what a matchup. Jay Cox and Scott Lang.
Why do I have a feeling there was a little smack talking between these two for round one?
My guess would be because that orange machine's in the left lane.
Yeah.
He's breathing. He's talking smack. Jay Cox out of Smithfield, North Carolina. The Pumpkin for Butner Construction, Smithfield Collision, Quartermax, Hayes & Son, Hartz Turbo, and Mark Mickey Trans. He's your number 6 qualified machine at a 365.0. And Scott Lang out of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, the Equalizer Camaro for AML Motorsports, Nissan of Rocky Mount, Infiniti of South Bay, CarMax, Steel Moon Moonshine, Proline, and Fuel Tech. He's your number 11 qualifier, but one thing I do notice looking at the qualifying, Scott Lang went down every time.
Yeah, Jay Cox was strong in testing, but then struggled in qualifying where it really counted. But the only turbo car in competition comes to the starting line, left-hand side of the racetrack. Jay Cox spent quite a few years in that nitrous combination, took some time off, and then when he came back, he said, "Where are there turbos on this race car?" Old school, new school Camaros. See him here on the starting line. Team AML taking on Butner Construction. Both teams and drivers call home right here in the state of North Carolina. Jay, just up the road from GALOT, here in Smithfield. Cox is in. Advantage goes to Jay at the starting line. Drives it all over the racetrack, and the win line by 0.03 of a second goes to Scott Lang. Your number 11 qualifier takes down number 6, Jay Cox. 372, 215 miles an hour. Scott's 369, 210 charge gets him into round number 2. 955 to the 992. Jay started to make the horsepower. You've seen the car go left. He drove it back in the center of the racetrack, and Scott Lang made a nice, clean run. You go back and watch Jay Cox's car. They're on FloRacing. He was, I believe, 992 down low. The car was slow off the starting line. Couldn't get it moving in the first couple feet of the run, and that cost him a lot. And you've seen it kick out right there. So Jay's car needed a little more horsepower up front to get it out and moving with that wheel speed.
So our next pair, Raymond Matos here on the right-hand side. The 2020 Camaro comes in as your number 12 qualified machine at a 365.9. And Steve King out of Strasburg, Virginia, the Gene Pilot-owned Savage Corvette out of G-Force Race Cars and Resolution Racing Services. Your number 5 qualifier to 363.7. And right before first round, I was walking through the pit area, walked by Steve King's pit. They had the front end off, car jacked up. I said, "Man, what are you doing?" He said, "We don't have any oil pressure." Clearly have that problem fixed now, ready to go as he pulls up alongside of Raymond Matos.
Red light start there for Raymond by 7 thou. And Steve King's going to be your winner. How about 364, 204 miles an hour for the Savage Corvette out of Virginia. 376, 200 the speed. You've seen Raymond drive through some tire shake, but by 7th thou, he threw it away, and Steve King was late. He would have been in trouble if there was a green light on the right-hand side.
Travis Harvey and Tim Dutton. Dutton over here on the right-hand side of the racetrack out of Northwood, New Hampshire. The Undertaker Corvette. TD Construction, Gray Transport, VP Fuels, ATI, and Noonan Race Engineering. He's your number 13 qualified machine out of 366.0. And he's pulling double duty. You'll see him in just a little while when he brings out his Pro Street machine. And Travis Harvey here on the left-hand side of the racetrack, the Gray Ghost. Owned by Vaughn Miles and Eric Holland, Red Top Motorsports, Holland Enterprises, CK Motorsports, Miller Time Racing, B&D Automotive, Hoosier, Pro Line, and LAT Racing Oils. Travis comes in number 4 out of 363.3.
So Tim Dutton making his debut here in Pro Boost for TD Construction. Chevrolet Corvette has to take on the Carolina Kid, Travis Harvey. Travis's car's been rather impressive all throughout 3 qualifying runs they've had. Watch the gray Camaro there on the left-hand side. Red light for Tim Dutton, and Travis Harvey has problems right at the starting line. Man, oh man, 369 the elapsed time for Dutton, and 0.03 of a second cost. That's a tough one to swallow. Travis was 10, and the car immediately had violent tire shake. You seen the passenger door pop open, and he goes to a 6:56 elapsed time. So Travis Harvey back to the drawing board. In round number 2, you will see them again. Yeah, absolutely. Luck was on Travis's side right there.
Two of the fastest Pro Charge, Pro Line machines on the property. Johnny Camp and Randy Weatherford side by side here in round 1. Weatherford on the right side out of Danville, Virginia, the WS Construction Camaro. And Johnny Camp, left-hand side of the racetrack, the Hells Bells Camaro out of Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. NGK, Sparkplug, Tapman Electric, Camp Brothers Enterprises, Pro Line, and Turnkey Foundations.
Both cars have been living in the mid-360s. This should be very interesting. Goes as planned. You're going to see a great side-by-side drag race. It's one of those things, you don't race them on paper. Race them on the racetrack, and anything can happen. We've seen quite a few upsets here today already throughout Pro Boost and Pro Nitrous. Small final adjustments being made on both of these race cars. Johnny Camp waiting for his team to guide him on in. Everyone for the blue machine on the right side. Backs away. This top bulb starts to light up. They're a few inches away from turning them loose. Ready, set, go. Another red light start by 1 thou. And the finish line stripe, Johnny Camp, 365.3 to a 365.5 at 205 miles an hour for Randy Weatherford, but 1 stinking thousand of a second cost Randy Weatherford the run. Johnny, not a slouch. He was 14 green, and they are going to be moving on to round number 2. And so many of these drivers have been pushing it on the starting line today.
Well, they know the field was so tight, Derek, that you have to have a good reaction time to make it work for you.
Talking about a tight field, look at that spread from number 1 to 16. 361.5 down to a 366.2. Just 0.05 of a second separated 16 drivers.
So Tom Blincoe here on the right-hand side out of Bardstown, Kentucky, the 2021 Corvette for Buzzett Construction. 366.0 was his qualifying time. And Jason Harris on the left-hand side, your reigning world champion out of Pittsboro, North Carolina. The party time, 69 Camaro for Southern Diamond Company, SP Tools, Hoosier Racing Tire, Pro Charger, LAT, and Braille.
So something that I'm going to bring up here is David Mundy, Tom Blincoe. Team cars, you've seen David Mundy already go down the racetrack early on in round number 1. They made a great A to B hit in the high 360s. Blincoe qualified at 366. He's been 368 as well. So they have a little bit of data that they could have ran back to the staging lanes, made some little adjustments, and Jason Harris knows that they've got to make a solid lap. Guy that really pushes the starting line, leaves nothing up front. A 3-time world champion, 4-time, world champ, comes to the starting line there. So you seen his dad, Bob Harris, walk back behind the race car. Advantage goes to Blincoe with violent tire shake, though, and Jason Harris. 366 at 206 the speed, and he will be moving on here today. Championship hunt once again there for Jason Harris in 2025, trying to repeat. But Blincoe, how about 023? 955, and then the car, well, it just was not happy. It started shaking, moving, and bouncing, and all kinds of stuff, and nearly that back window was popping out of that thing.
So our marquee matchup here in the opening round of WS Construction Pro Boost, presented by Ty Drive and P2 Contracting, starts the burnout process. Lyle Barnett here on the right side of the racetrack out of Robbins, North Carolina. The clean title 2020 Camaro for VP Race Fuels, Braille, Pro Charger, MacFab, Beadlocks, and Tommy Yeomans Racing. And Melanie Salemi, First Lady of Pro Mod on the left-hand side out of Buffalo, New York. The Purple Rain 68 Firebird for Ali Installations, Resolution Racing Services, G-Force, MSR, Hoosier, LAT, Liberty's Gears, and Ross Quick Drive.
You see Tommy down there on the starting line. Watch his driver, Lyle Barnett. And you talking about a wheelman. Lyle Barnett is one of the best drivers out there. Melanie Salemi has made quite the name for herself in the PDRA over the past couple years. Some great marketing partners and a team that they got behind him. You know, Melanie, in an interview that she did this weekend, she said, competing over here at the PDRA, it is the highest of high. It's the highest level. And you have to bring your A game. She said there is absolutely no room for error. Reaction times, they always count. We got to go out and make clean runs. And Lyle Barnett, even though he qualified number 16, they definitely have a race car that can run with Melanie. This one's going to be interesting. Lyle Barnett, guaranteed, is going to get up on the wheel, try to get that Camaro off the starting line first. Final pair here in round 1 of Pro Boost. They're in. Advantage goes to Melanie. Tire shake, and Lyle Barnett's car gets crossed up. Look at Melanie going towards the center line stripe. Melanie Salemi, 363, had her hands full towards the other end, though. 205.41 the numbers. Barnett coasting on through at 465. But look at the 60-foot times, I should say. Melanie Salemi was 928. Lyle was 947, and before half track, he was encountering problems. So Melanie Salemi, your number 1 qualifier, will be back around in round number 2 of Pro Boost this afternoon.
Second round matchups, it's going to be Salemi versus Preston Tanner. With Salemi going low for the round, she will have lane choice. Travis Harvey and Steve King. King will have lane choice in that matchup. Jason Harris and Ty Tutterow, with Harris having lane choice, and Johnny Camp and Scott Lang. Probably 2 of the most evenly matched ETs out of first round.
Yeah.
With Camp having some lane choice.
Absolutely, man. I was just watching on the FloRacing live feed. Melanie got extremely close to that center line stripe. I'd love to go back and see an instant replay of that one. She was out of the groove. Watch this. Slow-mo. Melanie's car. It's right in the center of the racetrack. Lyle's out there shaking. He's moving around. Almost takes out the 330 cone. And Melanie, right before the mile-per-hour cone out there, that Pontiac Firebird was pushing hard to the right, and she stayed with it. Great driving job out of both of those machines, and a little track prep will take place. We'll be back in action. It'll be Extreme Pro Stock coming up next here at GALOT Motorsports Park.
Liberty's Gears Pro Street. Liberty's Gears Pro Street, we need you for your opening round of competition, please, to the staging lanes at this time. Pro Street, we need you. Racetrack ready to go. Time for some AED Performance Extreme Pro Stock presented by Kazi Race Engines.
Yeah, we go from the Power Rider classes to the naturally aspirated all motor, big cubic inches.
What a matchup right here, Derek. Elijah Morton left side, Johnny Pluchino on the right. Morton out of Swansboro. The Double Trouble Mustang for Allen Competition Engine, Larry Jeffers Race Car, South State Development, Horizons East, and Carolina Utilities. And Johnny's, okay, I think he just
Johnny's
got fired
car.
up. Yeah.
Lost fire out there after the burnout.
Okay, so Johnny Pluchino here on the right-hand side out of Smithtown, New York. The 2013 Mustang for Ross Environmental, Ram Clutches, Maximum Oil, and Kelling Equipment Repairs. Number 4 and 5 on the qualifying sheet. Johnny with 7 wins over 2 categories here at this racetrack, Derek.
GALOT has been a favorite of Johnny Pluchino. Jerry Haas built race car, brand new. Marketing partner here in 2025 with Ross coming aboard, and I'm almost wondering if there is some kind of mechanical issue that they are having. That car has lost fire twice, and does not sound happy. Johnny's dad's out there looking around, and I believe they're going to have to push him off the starting line. If anything, if they were able to put it in the beams just to see what would happen, I know they could do so. Johnny's already out of the car, and he is not happy. That is a tough way to start off 2025. So Elijah Morton, a competition single. The Allen competition engine, powered blue oval Ford, is going to make a solo run here. Elijah's car drives to the right a bit. He brings it back in the center of the racetrack. 409 with a 6. Low for the weekend and 76 miles an hour. That was a nice solid run here in the opening round of eliminations for Elijah Morton and the team out of Swansboro. But I can't tell you the last I've seen Johnny Pluchino come to the starting line and have mechanical failure. That team, one of the best out there, and very unfortunate. See that happening to him here.
Our next pair, Dwayne Rice, Allen Drinkwater. Drinkwater here on the right-hand side out of Maitland, Florida. The White Whale 08 Mustang for Seminole Paving. AD Competition, Ram Clutches, and Kazi Race Engines. Dwayne Rice, left-hand side out of Grove City, Ohio. Excalibur Race Engines, CP Pistons, and Tobacco Road Harley Davidson.
So right now, Dwayne Rice, longtime runner out of the Buckeye State of Ohio, takes on Allen Drinkwater. World champ sitting over here on the right side for Team Flat Out Gaskets. Mustang in the right, Camaro on the left. Here they come to the starting line. We just seen low for the weekend out of Elijah Morton. 409, Allen Drinkwater. Well, he's trying to go 409, maybe as well. It's been 410. You got a strong running machine here on the right side. Final move into the beams goes to Dwayne Rice. Advantage of the starting line, Dwayne. They run through the gears. Watch this one, half track, they're dead even. And by 19 thousandths of a second, Allen Drinkwater is going to be your winner. 4.104, 175 the speed. Takes down Dwayne. He goes 414 at 173. Had a nice advantage back here in the reaction time, but Allen Drinkwater used that horsepower and a faster car to drive on around him.
Stephen Boone, Jeremy Huffman. Jeremy here on the right side at a Catawba, North Carolina, 3D Performance 2010 Cobalt. Lake Lookout Campground, Mike Huffman Enterprises, Line-to-Line Coatings, and Dellinger Fabrication. Stephen Boone, left side of the racetrack out of Weaverville, North Carolina. For Boone Motorsports, the 07 Cobalt. Allen Competition Engines, Hoosier Tire, Menser, Line-to-Line Coatings, White Safety, Mazier Enterprises, and Ram Clutches on board the past World Champions machine. Huffman came out, struggled in qualifying, and finally on the last pass of the day went a 4.10.0 that landed him in a number 2 qualified position. Stephen Boone made 2 very respectable laps, had 1 aborted mission, and wound up number 7.
Jeremy Huffman's crew got getting a little TV time down there. Waving at the camera, and they get ready to bring him to the starting line. Seen some pretty impressive runs already. Round number 1. Oh, as both cars are going into pre-stage. Something's out there on the racetrack that you see Kyle Lang, our official starter, run out to grab. Some kind of debris. And very interesting. So the teams grab both of these cars, pull them back, and we're going to restart the staging process. Huffman's in first. Boone set. Advantage to Thal going to the right side. Jeremy Huffman is going to be holding up. It is 7th Thal, margin of victory. 412, 175 miles an hour beats a 413, 175 as well. That's a good old drag race right here at Extreme Pro Stock.
And our
Steve Boone.
Sorry about that, buddy.
Should say stepped up to run right with your number 2 qualifier, Jeremy Huffman. Here comes your next pair.
Our final pair in the category. Jordan Ensslin, left side of the racetrack out of Lakeland, Florida. The 09 Mustang for Talmadge Towing. Golden Gate Hotel and Casino, Dark Horse Coffee Company, CJW Solutions. And Chris Powers, your number 1 qualifier here this weekend, went a 4:09.9. Your reigning world champion behind the wheel of his Carlisle, Pennsylvania-based 2021 Camaro for Sonny's Racing Engines.
Find out if an upset can happen, and a big one. Jordan Ensslin take on guy running number 1, side window of that Chevy Camaro to Pennsylvania. Chris Powers, he went 4:09.9 at the top of the leaderboard to start race day. Clean him out, roll him in. Chris Powers takes a big bite into the stage beam. Red light by 9 thou for Jordan. And Chris Powers gets on down at 4:08.6. There's low for the weekend. 176 the speed. 4:29, 171 for Jordan Ensslin as he gave it all. And by 9 thousandths, let that clutch pedal up a little too soon.
Derek, our next round matchup, how about the 2 fastest cars in the category going to go head-to-head? You just saw Chris Powers. He'll have lane choice over Elijah Morton, and Jeremy Huffman and Alan Drinkwater will be the other side of the ladder.
4:08.6 and a 4:09.6, 1/100th of a second difference right there. That should be a good match. We're going to go into the category of Pro 632, and I like what I'm seeing right here with your first pair out.
Yeah, Jason Ventura, left side of the racetrack out of Pompano Beach, Florida, the Gladiator X Camaro, and Chevy Floyd out of Hendricks Grove, North Carolina, the Black Diamond 68 Camaro. Talking to Chevy in the pit area before the event elimination started today, he said, Scotty, he said, you ain't going to believe this. He said, but when we made our fastest pass in the heat of the day, we had a hole in a piston. We had a dead hole in the motor and still went the fastest we went all weekend.
So you're telling me these cars run a little bit better on 8 than
Probably.
7, I guess? Yeah.
I mean, I'm just guessing.
Yeah. So 632 cubic inches with a lot of nitrous. That's what you get right here in Pro 632. That orange Gladiator X Camaro sitting on the far side of the racetrack for Jason Ventura. The trip up from Florida. And Chevy Floyd right here in his hometown state. And pretty impressive behind the wheel of this beautiful black 69 Chevy Camaro. Advantage goes to Chevy. Half track, Ventura's ahead, and by 3 thousandths of a second. How about that? Jason Ventura turns on the win light. 424 beats a 427.1. That was a great drag race to kick things off here in Pro 632. We're talking about inches margin of victory at the finish line stripe going Ventura's way. It was 4 thousandths at the starting line going to Chevy, 3,000 finish line to Jason Ventura. Your second pair burnouts underway right now.
And that's going to bring out Nicole Liberty and Brian Claus. Claus here on the right-hand side out of Pasadena, Maryland. The Superior Speed and Custom 06 Cavalier for injector maintenance. Comes in as your number 9 qualified machine at a 424.8. Nicole Liberty on the left-hand side out of Marine City, Michigan. Liberty's gears, NGK. Comes in number 6 at a 423.0, and that car has lived in the 423s. All 3 qualifying passes only varied 4 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, you look at qualifying, and man, the parity in the class is really strong this year. That's what I'm liking to see here in race number 1. 420 down to a 450 is Gary Hood with that Corvette. But your top 12 cars were separated by 800ths of a second. Top half of the field was separated by 400ths. And good to see Nicole Liberty. On the left side, they have made the decision to run, I believe, each and every one of our national events here at the Red Line Oil PDRA Series this year. So they're chasing a world championship. Team Liberty's gears. Nicole was a long-time runner, the NMCA Series. Had some success over here. Over there, I should say. Big time advantage going to Brian Claus. And the finish line, it's going to be Brian. 006 and 428. The number 9 takes down number 6, Nicole, who was 084. Quicker but losing. 424, 168, the numbers there for Nicole Liberty.
Jeff Melnick next out on the left side of the racetrack is 2020 Camaro for Greenbrier Excavating and Paving, Mickey Thompson and PTP. And Mike Fiorelli here on the right-hand side out of Hollywood, Florida for Chassis Engineering, his 68 Camaro. Rossler Trans, Wilson Manifolds, Voss Wheelie Bars, VP Induction Solutions, and Fuel Tech.
Alan O'Brien watching on. Patrick Barnhill out in front of that white Camaro. The left-hand side. Jeff Melnick doing the driving duties. The chassis engineering team. Florida, Mike Fiorelli. Here he comes to the starting line. Jeff Melnick, 300s quicker on paper, coming in here to race day. Red light by 7th thou for Mike Fiorelli, and Jeff Melnick was late. 082 and 422, the end result at 169. Fiorelli goes 429 here at 166 the speed, but Jeff Melnick will come on back around in round number 2. Looking at that, Melnick going 422 with a 0, heat of the day. He was 8,000 of a second quicker than he's been all weekend. That's some good signs for that team.
And so far, that's the lowest ET here in the opening round of PDRA Pro 632,
Yeah,
presented by PTC. Kyle Salminen and Jeff Pittman. Our next pair out, Salminen here on the right-hand side out of Marine City, Michigan for Matt's Electric, the 03 Cavalier with the Pat Musey horsepower. And Jeff Pittman, we talked about guys making the jump from elite top sportsman up to the Pro Nitrous ranks. Now we see one that's making the jump over here to PDRA Pro 632 and Pittman.
Yeah, Jeff Pittman, he didn't opt to go into Pro Nitrous or Pro Boost. He said, you know what? Let's take this big-bodied 68 Chevelle and go Pro 632 racing, which is pretty cool.
And look at qualifying. 425, 424.0, 421 with a 2. I mean, and from what I hear in the pit area, this car was just finished. Like on Monday, they put the motor in. So, I mean,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, a little
I
pressure.
don't like waiting till the last minute. Hickory Enclosed Trailer Sales on board that machine for Jeff Pittman, as well as Greenbrier Excavating.
So no preseason testing per se for Jeff Pittman.
When he got here?
Right here.
Q1. Let's go.
And but you look over there on the left-hand side of the racetrack, and you see much of the same crew that you did for Jeff Melnick that you do for Jeff. And, of course, the Greenbrier sticker on board and Hickory RPM Enclosed Trailer Sales. Kyle Salminen, they are another team out of Michigan. Right up there in Nicole Liberty's neck of the woods. Glad to have them over here in 2025 with us.
Well, for Pittman, too, Derek, Melnick past world champion in the category, so that's definitely a good one to have in your corner.
Yeah, like what I've seen out of Pittman's car throughout qualifying. Should be a good matchup here in round number 1 right here between these two. Kyle's going to get up on the wheel, try to get a slide advantage off the starting line, and hopefully it's enough at the other end. They are set. Crossed up, some problems, clicks it off early. Jeff Pittman, another 424 with a 5 here, 164 miles an hour. So that's 68 Chevelle. Moves right into round number 2 of 32 this afternoon.
George Coleman here on the right-hand side of the racetrack, the 63 split window out of Hayes, Virginia for Cam's, Platinum Coast Properties, Cousins Towing, and Julie and Donnie Wilson. And Chris Rini. No, he didn't show up for the wrong class. He was running his stepson's machine here in Pro 632. Chris out of Hickory, North Carolina for ATI Performance Products, Maxima Oil, and Braille Battery.
Yeah, so Chris Rini getting that car ready for Carson Oil. Should see him at some point.
Yeah, they've been out testing some, but they want the kid to get some more time behind the wheel, and that's understandable. Big horsepower machine here.
So that's another car that's missing out of Pro Nitrous. Chris Rini kind of focusing here on this machine. And pretty impressive, though, to come out and be number 3 in qualifying. They've got some early season laps as well. That 420 number at Chris Rini last night, that was kind of a jaw dropper. I mean, they picked up 0.06 of a second from where they had been previous. George Coleman's been living in the high 420s. Oh, Coleman lights both bulbs. He is in. Both drivers late on the trio. The 2,000 separated. Top in. It's going to be Chris Rini. 424 beats a 438. 166 mile an hour charge out of Rini's Hickory, North Carolina ATI Camaro. And I'm not sure if George Coleman meant to do that or it was on accident. That rolled in there kind of fast and both bulbs lit up. He stabbed the brake pedal. And
next pair, Walt Lanigan, left side of the racetrack. Andy House here on the right. Lanigan for freedomgrow.org out of Savannah, Georgia, his 2010 GTO. Jamie Miller doing the tuning on that hot rod. It is for sale. If you're looking to go 632 racing, he's your number 2 qualifier here this weekend. And Andy House on the right-hand side, the Meade Baldwin owned Old Red 69 Camaro for Southern Diamond Company. SP Tools, Hoosier Tire, and Braille Batteries. And Derek, Andy won this event last year, but man, has he struggled here this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not sure what has changed over the offseason. I mean, it could be a factor of different things, but Andy, they went 491, 458, 445, and I'm kind of surprised to see that car down in the bottom half of the field like it is starting race day. So we'll find out what they can bring to the table against Walter Lanigan. He's out there just printing time slips. He's another car you could just throw a dial in on it and go bracket racing. So Lanigan for freedomgrow.org. A Pontiac GTO. Moves on in. Final one to stage. Advantage goes to Lanigan. And it's going to be Walt Lanigan to the finish line stripe. 423 beats a 435. Andy House makes his best run of the weekend, but it was not enough to take down your number 2 qualifier, Walter Lanigan.
And our final pair in category, Gary Hood, the SLM-sponsored 63 split-window Corvette they call the Inspector out of Severn, Maryland. And Lexi Tanner, your number 1 qualifier here this weekend, left-hand side out of Rensselaer, Indiana for Talbot Manufacturing. Manhattan Collision. She went a 420 with a 1 in qualifying.
So Lexi Tanner starting out the season strong as your number 1 qualifier. Young lady out of Indiana. Be a contender for a world championship. Gary Hood waiting patiently. His top bulb is illuminated. Here comes that green Camaro. Gary cleans it out one more time. And perfect reaction time for Lexi Tanner and a red light for Gary by 20 thousandths of a second. Lexi Tanner is going to go 422 here. The heat of the day at 168. Good run for her on the first federal side of the racetrack, 447. There's Gary's best run of the weekend by 300ths. And cost him the starting line, though. But when you take a shot of the tree and you look across the racetrack and your opponent's perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of a kick.
Yeah, what do you do?
So that was a twofer for Lexi. She'll have a bye run here in the second round. In our second round matchups, Jeff Pittman will race against teammate Jeff Melnick. 422 gives Melnick lane choice.
Well, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Walt Lanigan and Jason Ventura will go head-to-head with Walt Lanigan having lane choice. And Chris Rini and Brian Claus head-to-head. Round number 2 with Chris having lane choice.
Yep, just a little bit of track prep is taking place here at the Salminen Racing Equipment East Coast Nationals presented by Fuel Tech. We'll have some more professional eliminations coming out in just a moment.
it shows scale. It shows scale of the event. Paul dog walked him. Poor guy. That was a rough day for Austin Prock right there.
A great win for this team. 313 miles an hour.
029 Savage.
What a breakthrough for this guy.
Here with John Medlin has done so many things in your career. You've now helped deliver a win to Paul Lee. How much went into this victory?
Breathtaking to me. It's a big deal because this is the anniversary of Eric passing away this day today. And we saw more fours on that scoreboard than I've ever seen in my entire life. So I think he just took his thumb and he pushed that car right into the winner's circle.
Amazing moment, and I know you have deep feelings about that, Eric being here today, and now you have scored a win. We are thinking of you. Tremendous victory. Congratulations, John.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I think we're going to go down to the top end with a man of
just said off camera, I had a feeling about today as the Wally goes in the hands for the first time ever for Paul Lee.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Paul, 18 years ago, we lost a brilliant light in Eric Medlin, and you just delivered John Medlin and Johnny Lindbergh a win here in Phoenix, and yourself a Wally as a funny car driver. Could you have scripted it any better for yourself?
I don't think so. I think this is like a dream come true. I mean, today was just surreal. I mean, the whole pit was calm. We were calm all day. We prayed that Eric was with us, and he was. And I'm going to tell you something. This trophy is going right to John Medlin on the starting line because we are blessed to have a guy like him still in the sport and helping all our young guys learn the sport of drag racing. So God bless John, and thanks to all our partners, Mainline Sales, McLeod, FTI, Gates, Redline Oil, Justice Brothers. This is for you guys. Thank you.
What a moment, Mikey.
Very cool.
Very cool moment. So without any further ado, let's bring the man of the hour on. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the one, the only, fresh off a win, his first career Nitro Funny Car win at the NHRA Arizona Nationals, the one and the only Paul Lee. What's up, Paul?
Hey, guys.
What's up, man?
Man, we're happy to be chatting with you. Thanks for joining us. You're probably doing a worldwide press tour, phones melting down, can't keep up with all this insanity.
Yeah, it's been surreal. Like I said, I mean, the whole day was surreal, and you know, I don't know, I don't know what to say. It was emotional being that special day, and we won the first round with 4-4-4. I mean, how do you explain all that?
That's
crazy. Really
There's,
hard to explain.
I was thinking about this before the show, and maybe you can pinpoint some of these moments, but I feel like since Eric's passing, when we get to this anniversary of it happening around this time of year, there's been other things like this happen where he shows his presence. And I think there's been maybe some crashes where it seems like it could have been a lot worse and it wasn't. But I feel like every few years we get this reminder of Eric, and maybe it's through John himself and his continued presence in the sport. But it seems like this is not the first time, but maybe this is the most visible example we have of his presence still in the sport.
Well, how about that first round crash with Ron Capps? I mean, you know, it's eerily similar to, you know, something that happened with Eric, even though it wasn't exactly the same thing. You know, he had that crash, and then John had his crash earlier this year, and Ron, we did all this extra padding, which is really tight in that area, but you really feel safe in there with all that. I don't know if you guys have seen the cars yet, but that extra padding all around your head, you can only move your head a little bit. And it's pretty soft, and it feels safe. And look at Ron, he hit the wall really hard, and he walked away. I mean, you know, how far we've come in 18 years is pretty amazing safety wise.
It really is amazing. Paul, you said something in your post-race interview that it reminded me of some stories that we've had Clay Milliken tell us just about like the perseverance that is required. You talked about this is something that you've been working towards since you were 13 years old. I don't want to air out dirty laundry, but that was, you know, damn near 50 years ago, Paul.
Yeah.
And
it says 50 years in the press release. So that's
okay.
That's
so, all right. 50 years ago. So can you just give us a glimpse into the mindset and like your personal modus operandi, if you will, for how you sustain the effort that you've sustained for 5 decades, waiting to get this monkey off your back? I mean, I think there's a lot of people that have probably fought battles, whether it's in their business or their personal lives or whatever, that they think are, you know, they're never going to see the other side. And I think it's just such a great reminder that you got to keep going when you see someone such as yourself pursue a goal for 50 years and finally cross the bridge? I mean, can you bottle that up and sell it to us, or at least tell us where to get it?
When I was a kid, I grew up at the racetrack going at Atco Dragway. I grew up in New Jersey, and my uncle raced A-Gas Supercharged back in the 60s. Now, he wasn't like a big hitter or anything, but he was a local guy, local hero around Atco Dragway. And I remember my mom dragging us to Atco, watching him back in the 60s race. So I kind of grew up at the racetrack, but it wasn't until I was in my teens where I went to a match race at Atco and saw Jungle Jim Lieberman and all the nitro funny cars of the 70s. And to me, the 70s was the heyday of funny cars. I mean, and the first time I saw a nitro funny car, I remember it. It's got goosebumps. It's like yesterday. It's like, that's what I want to do with my life. That's what I want to do. So everything that I've ever done in my life has been geared towards that goal and just never given up. I recognized a long time ago, back in the 80s, that being a professional driver, at first you want to be a professional driver, right? Like Jungle Jim and Tom McEwen and the Snake and all that. You want to be a driver, but then in the mid 80s, I saw Don Perdome sat out because he didn't have sponsorship. Shirley Muldowney sat out because she didn't have. Same thing with Don Garlitz, right? These are the greatest drag racers that in our history
ever lived.
And they couldn't get sponsors. So who am I? Like, how am I going to be a professional racer? So I switched my goals to, like, if I want to do this someday and reach my goals of being a Nitro Funny Car champion, which finally came, I was going to have to do it a different way. So my idols changed to Connie Coletta and Joe Amato. They were the guys because they were successful businessmen, and Joe Amato was sort of in the Northeast where I grew up, Keystone Automotive Warehouse, right? And those guys controlled their own destiny in racing. I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I went, I did everything I could. I went to business school. I went to law school. I got as much education as I could so I could, kind of control my own destiny. Now, am I on the level of a Connie or a Joe Amato? No, but on my own terms in our business, we've been successful enough where I can keep pursuing this goal and having that never give up attitude. I mean, it's a lot of times it's disappointing, when you put all the money that in the time and all these years, the dedication, and it doesn't come about. But I've never had the attitude where I'm going to give up doing it. I mean, once you dedicate your life to it, that's your life, right? It's, there's nothing else that I want to reach besides the business goals, which, we're doing really well. I'm blessed to have the business and all the 150 employees that we have with the companies. Without that, I couldn't do this, but it's just never given up, even though in the face of all that disappointment, you just got to keep going.
I remember back when you had just kind of made you were going to make a big push into Nitro Funny Car, a satellite car from out of the DSR shop and all these things, and you're buying bodies and spending big money to prepare yourself for a championship run. And that's been a few years ago now, right? And so what has that process been like? I mean, how many times in the last several years were you ever like at the brink of saying, you know what, maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah, a couple of times. When we first did it, in 2018 is when I first drove the car again after my heart attack, where the doctor signed off on me and said, okay, yeah, you can do this again. Oh, then it's like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to, join a team? But there really wasn't any teams for me to join. So it's sort of, I had to like do my own deal. And of course, Don Schumacher, bless the guy. He said, hey, Paul, anything you guys want to do, just let me know what you need, and we'll supply you with everything, and you could be a satellite car at DSR. And that's what Jimmo and I did. Jimmo, who I was friends with for many years, and I drove that short time at Coletta before my heart attack, so I got to be real close with Jimmo. And when he left, he was the logical choice to help me put this together because he had experience in doing that. So we went to Don, and Don helped us put it all together. And we rent space at DSR, and we've been there ever since. But and we didn't do very good. Okay, so we come out of the box, we just didn't do very good. We smoked the tires a lot, and so then I go fast forward 2 years. I go a different direction, give somebody young guys. I said I don't mind giving young guys a chance, right? So we go that way, and that didn't work out either. So I was like, man, I'm just going to park this car. We were about midway through the year. We just couldn't get down the track. And so I called John Medlin, and I've known John a long time. He had just retired, right? And I talked to John. I said, John, he says, can you come out and, have another set of eyes on what the guys are doing? We're just having issues, and I'm spending lots of money. We got all the best parts that money can buy, but we're just not getting it done. Can you, give a look, come out and look? And he goes, well, Paul, he says, I'm retired, but let me talk to Martha, his wife. And she said, and see if I'll come out and just give a look. I don't want to be a crew chief anymore, but I'll come out and I'll give a look. So he came to Bristol, was the first race, and luckily it was driving distance. Came out to the race and look around, and we didn't qualify for that race either. And then he went to the shop, worked with the guys, looked at all the parts, went through a lot of issues. He found a whole bunch of problems and started getting the car straightened out, right? By the end of the year, we started actually, running pretty good at the end of that year. But then situation changed with my crew chief that was at the time. He was going to go in a different direction. But if John didn't come out that time, I was parking the car. I was done. I was done spending all that money and not having fun. It wasn't fun. It's not fun when you smoke the tires every time. So it's like, you want to make it down the track, even if it's a 4-0, you want to give your sponsors and your fans something to cheer for, right? But, let's not try to run 380. Let's try to run 4-0 and go down the track.
Forward progress. Making some just small forward progress.
Yeah.
But you talked about that
in
your winter interview too, though. You talked about John being willing to come out and do that and kind of put eyes or train some of these younger crew guys and crew chiefs. And you've had some younger guys, and then you've got still a relatively young guy in Johnny Lindbergh that he's able to mentor and to work with as a 1-2 punch. So you're still kind of doing that same thing, but with the guidance of John Medlin.
Well, you know how that came about. So by the end of that first year, he had come out and he goes, Paul, at the end of the year, he was staying with me no matter what the news said. He was going to stay with me, and we were going to go in a different direction with someone. And he said, he came to me, he says, Paul, I haven't had this much fun drag racing in 10 years. I found out that I really enjoy teaching. He goes, that's my new goal. I want to give back to the sport by teaching young crew chiefs and the young guys and the girls on the team the right way of doing their jobs, right? So he found a new purpose. He told me, he said, I have a new purpose now. And now I want to give back I don't want to be a crew chief, but I want to be a teacher. So he stayed on as a consultant. And then Johnny Lindbergh contacted me. I was deciding, what am I going to do here? And then Johnny contacted me. He says, hey, he goes, I want to be a crew chief. I want to be a nitro crew chief. And he goes, I would love to learn under John Medlin. So the first, indication of a good anybody, whether it's an employee or someone on your team that guys want to join you, is they want to do it, right? You want guys that want to do this, not like are forced into it or whatever. But so I called John Medlin and I said, John, Johnny Lindbergh's interested in being our crew chief and learning from you. He won't do it unless you're going to teach him. Johnny Lindbergh's, I have to give him a lot of credit. He goes, I've never done this before, but I believe I can do it. But I think that I can learn from John. I won't do it unless John can teach me. And so we talked about it. And John Medlin said, that guy's really smart. That's a perfect choice. So let's do it. So that happened really quick. And then that's how it started. And John Medlin's been our consultant and teacher, mentor to the whole team. And that's how that started.
That, what an awesome story. And I mean, thank God for that, because that's a conversation that comes up here on this show quite a bit, is like, who are those next guys? Who's the next Alan Johnson? Who's the next Bernie Federley or Austin Coyle? And we're certainly seeing them pop up, right? I mean, we've got some big name crew chiefs and some guys that are relatively young, but it's kind of an interesting conversation. Where's that next group of superstar tuners going to come from? And to hear a story like that, it kind of makes you proud, like that John Medlin, because a lot of times finding that purpose is the most important part of this whole deal. And him finding, passion and purpose in teaching Yanni and the whole crew is pretty amazing, man. Like, that makes me feel good about like the world. You know what I mean? That there's still people like that out there.
You see John telling me that I haven't had this much fun in 10 years drag racing. He says, my new purpose is doing this. And I'm glad that he gets to do that and gives back to our sport that we all love, right? And you know, like you said, we're the next. There's not enough crew chiefs in this sport. Let's face it. And for him to be able to give back and teach a couple of these new guys going forward, that's awesome for our sport.
It's fantastic and much needed.
Yeah. Did you think you would never get to that magic combination? Like you talked about the struggles or, parking the car and really not finding the combination, but now you seem to have found it. And I mean,
yeah, it was pretty frustrating. Yeah, it was frustrating. And
yeah,
I wasn't going to park the car because of the money part. I was going to park it because I just wasn't doing any good and not having any fun. And I don't do this for a living. I'm not a professional drag racer, right? This is my hobby. But, I'm lucky enough to be able to get out there and promote our companies, McLeod, FTI, Silver Sport, and Comp Clutch now, and using the race car as a tool. So I'm pretty lucky when it comes to that. But yeah, there was many times it's like, man, I just, you get disappointed. There's only so much disappointment you can take. But then,
it's hard.
Mustang for Haltech, Atomizer, Motion, Pro Charger, TBM, and Blaine Brothers Racing. He's your number 9 qualified machine. He won a 4:05.3. And Adrian Herrera making the long haul from Fort Worth, Texas. The 67 Chevelle. He's number 8 at a 4:04.9.
Man, how cool is Adrian Herrera's car? That 67 big-bodied Chevy. And pretty solidly qualified. Made some good runs, and they could make some noise here in the category of Pro Street this weekend. Not your traditional Mustang or Camaro, and went outside the box in this build.
Derek, you touched on it. That's what's so cool about this Pro Street category. The different body styles, the different power combinations. And man, what a tight group in qualifying.
Yeah, 397 down to a 418, 16 cars. They're in. Red light for Herrera. Marty Merlotte's going to go 414 here, 160 the speed with this Ford Mustang. And a little late shoots for Adrian, but 408, 185, and did not need to go red. That's a tough break and a long drive all the way back to Texas here in the opening round of competition.
Our next pair completing the burnout process, Nick Agostino here on the right-hand side. Out of Markham, Ontario, Canada. His 69 Camaro comes in as the number 10 qualified machine at a 4:06.1. And Tim Essick, the brown sugar hot rod, left side of the racetrack out of Port Tobacco, Maryland. For Essick Motorsports, Pro Charger, Billet, UPR, PRS, Fuel Tech, and ATI. Essick, a past world champion in the category. Always a tough competitor, but Nick Agostino's looked good here this weekend.
Nice to see Nick Agostino come back to championship form. Think back just to about 2 seasons ago. That is the race car everybody was really chasing. One of the fastest in the category, and Tim Essick. Car that he built himself, we've talked about so many times.
And Agostino, small block twin turbo, Nash performance engine. Tim Essick utilizing the Pro Charger on his brown sugar machine.
Goes to Tim Essick. Left-hand side, Essick's going to go 404, 186 the speed at 455 for Nick Agostino. He had some issues lifted early, but unfortunately for Nick, he was 0-9 here at the starting line. And against Tim Essick, well, that normally does not spell a win light.
Chris Tootin next out on the right-hand side of the racetrack. The South Carolina-based 87 Mustang for the Muffler Shop of Columbia and Torque Converter Services rolls in as your number 6 qualified machine at a 4:03.6. And Bill Devine, left-hand side out of Muskegon, Michigan. The Bullseye Power 01 Mustang for Mickey Thompson, Maxima, Fuel Tech, Ram Clutches, Mincer Motorsports, and Turbo Smart. One of the only clutch car in the category on the left side of the racetrack. That Bullseye machine of Bill Devine.
Yeah, Bill Devine is busy inside the cockpit. Car on the left-hand side. Would be pretty cool to see him turn on a couple win lights here, the opening race. 2025.
But on the same breath, you know, Chris Tootin, we've watched him from his debut here in PDRA. Their program has come a long way. Finds himself qualified in the 6th spot, making a very respectable 4:03 in qualifying.
Here goes to Tootin. Half track Devine's ahead. Top end by 75 thousandths of a second. Chris Tootin, your winner. 4:10 at 200 miles an hour. Takes down Bill Devine's 4:13 174 charge. At 60 foot, Bill Devine was ahead. At 3:30, Devine was still ahead, and Chris Tootin drove a round with his Ford Mustang.
Talked about chills earlier. That one gave me side by side. They went, and man, Tootin turned on the win light. I thought it was going to shine on Bill Devine's side, to be honest. Andy Manson here on the right-hand side out of Manassas, Virginia. His 96 Mustang came in the number 5 qualified position at a 4:02.8. He'll be up against Bill Riddle, past world champion there on the left-hand side of the racetrack. In the Corrigan Race Fuels 89 Camaro for Mickey Thompson Tires. Cigar City Garage, SSI Superchargers, Motorsports Unlimited, and Red Line Oil. We spoke on it throughout qualifying. Manson's machine's been in a lot of different configurations. Finds itself here in Pro Street this weekend at the Summit Racing Equipment East Coast Nationals, presented by Fuel Tech. And he's making his presence known. 23 of these machines took time in qualifying. A lot of big names on the outside not getting a race here today. And Andy Manson, number 5. Good job for that team.
You see tuning legend Patrick Barnhill down there, and he leaned in the passenger door of Andy Manson's Mustang. A couple small adjustments, and they gave each other a fist bump. Love to see a great side-by-side race out of these two as they come into the top lights. Riddle, he's in. Bill Riddle making it look easy at 4:05, 187 as Andy Manson pedaled the car right at the starting line. Goes 4:44 here, so your number 12 qualifier, Bill Riddle, takes down number 5, Andy Manson, here in round number 1. Huge win there for the Corrigan Racing Fuel team.
Cool matchup right here. Richard Reagan, left side of the racetrack out of Rutledge, Tennessee. The Reagan Excavating 91 Mustang for Tim's Garage. Your number 4 qualifier to 4:01.4. Big story here on the right-hand side of the racetrack, though. Tommy Yeomans out of McIntyre, Georgia. The 04 Mustang has Lyle Barnett's name on it because Lyle normally pilots it. Tommy, normally in his GTO, brought that GTO out here and absolutely grenaded a motor through the traps. So they left, went back, met somebody in South Carolina to get this Mustang, and brought it back up here.
Dedication right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, once you're here, you're here. And they had enough time to still make some qualifying runs and make a weekend of it, so that is what they did. So Richard Reagan, the injector hat sticking out of the 91 Mustang there on the left-hand side. Yeomans has the advantage of the starting line. Half track, they're dead even, top end. The win light goes to Reagan. 408 takes down a 415, 189 charge for Tommy Yeomans in the Georgia-based Blue Oval. We're there as Richard Reagan was 111, download 279 to half track, 408 the end result. Tommy stayed right alongside of him until 330-foot mark when Reagan's car pulled ahead by 54 thousandths of a second.
Ethan Stedding, Joel Winsley Jr., our next pair. Stedding left side, your reigning world champion in the category out of Carnegie, Pennsylvania. His 2022 model Camaro for P2 Contracting, P2 Racing, Redline Oil, YO Motorsports, Ty Drive, and NGK. And Joel Winsley Jr. here on the right-hand side out of Dearborn, Michigan, his 2016 Camaro. Winsley turned up the wick towards the end of last season. Struggled a bit here in qualifying, hoping to get things lined out here and take down the world champ. Ethan Stedding, on the other hand, had one rough run in qualifying, went a 407 and a 401. The 401 landing him number 3 on the qualifying sheet.
Pedal fest there, and your reigning world champs out of in round 1 of competition today. Joel Winsley Jr. legs it to the other end at 433, 184. Ethan Stedding caught the tire spin very early, pedaled the car, and could not get it to hook back up. Lost traction, 639 at 78 miles an hour for Ethan Stedding.
Tim Dutton, Ty Casper, our next pair, fires up, pulls through the water box. Tim on the left side of the racetrack. You saw him in his Pro Boost machine earlier out of Northwood, New Hampshire. The TD Construction 2019 Corvette for Gray Transport, Proline Fuel Tech, and TD Construction. He comes in number 2. Lost the number 1 spot by mile an hour when a 397.6 has the legend Steve Petty tuning that Corvette. And Ty Casper here on the right-hand side out of Westfield, New Jersey. The 05 Mustang they call Sinatra for Casper Performance Edge, Victus Baseball Bats, and Vibrant. Family team over here, his dad and brother. See his brother fanning the doors. Dad's getting ready to pull him up to the starting line.
So here we go, 2 and 15 on the starting line. Blue Mustang right side for Casper, the blue Corvette for Tim Dutton. Left-hand side of the racetrack. Just seen a pedal fest. pair of advantage goes to Casper. Half track, Dutton's ahead. And there it is, Tim Dutton, your winner at 4:05 elapsed time. Ty Casper runs 497, 111 miles an hour for Victus baseball bats. Just about half track, he started to spin the tire, and great traction there. So Tim Dutton advances today.
In the pit area, we need Elite Top Sportsman. Elite Top Sportsman, we need you. Elite Top Sportsman for round number 1. We need you to the staging lanes, please. Elite Top Sportsman. Number 1 qualifier, left side of the racetrack. That's Blake Denton out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. 69 Camaro called Bonnie, one of Lizzie Musey's old rides, and they have changed nothing on the outside of the car. Redline Oil, Franklin Electric, SmartCom, Hoosier Tire on board his machine. And John Carasini out of Carency. Out of Port St. Lucie, Florida. Extreme Racing Engines in the 04 Corvette. Precision Turbo, Motec, M&M, Atomizer, and Extreme Racing on board. So how cool is that, Derek? Blake Denton's machine. Paying homage to Lizzie Musey's memory.
And then to go from, not qualified right to the number 1 spot, that was a huge run for them. And they came down to the final session. Pressure was on. So John Carency, 61-year-old property manager. That is a strong running Corvette. Even though he qualified number 16, we've seen some strong, solid runs from him before, and Blake Denton knows that. Zero room for error from either one of these race cars. Carenci's in. Denton set. Lights are down. The advantage goes to Blake Denton. And Blake goes 4:05, 192. As John Carenci continued to have some issues here, and it's only a 5:89 elapsed time for him. It's a tough one.
So, second round matchups for Liberty's Gears Pro Street presented by Menser Motorsport. Blake Denton will have lane choice over Marty Marilot. Phil Riddle will have lane choice over Richard Reagan. Tim Essick will have lane choice over Tim Dutton. And Chris Tootin will have lane choice over Joel Winsley. So now we make the jump to PDRA Super Street, presented by Brian's Heating and Cooling. Michael Webb here on the right side of the racetrack was supposed to face off against Brian Wolf. Wolf not making the call, so Michael Webb will be on a competition single. Out of Front Royal, Virginia, the 1991 Mustang.
Michael Webb knocks the tire off of it right at the hit on his competition single. He'll coast on down to the other end with the automatic.
Elite Top Sportsman, we called you to staging. Elite Top Sportsman, we called you. J.C. Beatty Jr. out of Baltimore, Maryland, the ATI Performance Products. Camaro here on the right side, and David Knight out of Kannapolis, North Carolina for Knight Performance, the 72 Nova. Rossler Trans, Harrell Engine and Dyno, Forced Inductions. On board Knight's machine. Elite Top Sportsman, we need you. Elite Top Sportsman, we need you. To staging for round number 1.
Beatty's in. David Knight follows. David Knight makes a run. 4:79.7. Great lap. 155 the speed for Knight Performance there, the left side. 5:11. J.C. Beatty Jr. picks up 0.05 of a second from their best qualifying effort. It just was not enough to get around that hard charge in Chevrolet Nova. Here in round 1, Super Street.
Dustin Mewborn here on the right-hand side. The 91 Mustang out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And Dan Wetstein, left side, in red velvet, his 91 Mustang out of La Plata, Maryland. Wetstein, your defending world champion in the category out of Essex Motorsports, Pro Charger, Atomizer, ATI, Mincer Motorsports, and UPR Products. So Dan Wetstein, left side. Dustin Mewborn here on the right-hand side. Pre-stage bulbs illuminated. This one's going to be all Big Dan. Issues for Dustin here, right side of the racetrack. 474.1 for Dan. Matt Shallow. 1320 Fab, PKRE Nitrous, Tyndall's Tools, and Mincer Motorsports helping out the Camaro out of Virginia Beach. And Brad McBride out of Granite Falls, North Carolina. The 63 VW Fastback for Yonts RV, Icon Piston, Goodrich, and Schaefer's Oil.
Man, I got to feel that this is a crowd favorite. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Brad McBride, and you think back to Bristol when he flipped that thing right on its roof.
He flipped it at Bristol and won the World Final, so a proven race winner there left side of the racetrack. And Matt Shallow here on the right-hand side. He's been doing this for a long time.
advantage goes to Matt Shallow. Problems for Brad McBride over there on the left-hand side. And Shallow drops 472.5 on the scoreboard at 156. There's a run for the Virginia Beach Camaro. Low for the round so far.
If you're in the grandstands, and you're standing along the fence, along the front of the grandstands, you need to find a seat. The people behind you cannot see. If you're standing at the front of the grandstands, you need to find a seat because the people behind you cannot see. This is on both sides of the racetrack, and don't have to move it once. I appreciate those of you that did. But if you're standing along the fence at the front of the grandstands, you need to move so the people behind you can see. Our next pair completing the burnouts. Carson Perry here on the right-hand side, the Greenbrier Excavating Camaro, and Connor McGee, the Bryant's Heating and Cooling Mustang out of South Carolina.
So Carson Perry has the reaction time advantage, but Connor McGee with the win. 475 takes down a 586 elapsed time. So your number 2 qualifier out of South Carolina, Connor McGee, will be into round number 2 today.
In our final car in category, on a bye run, the way the car count and ladder worked out, Austin and Vincent out of Central City, Kentucky. For Vincent Performance, the 88 Mustang. Drummond Race Design, Nitrous Express, Davis Technologies, Steph's Fabrication, Jessel, Diamond Piston, and Maxima Racing Oil. He went a 4:58.3. Right now needs to go quicker than a 4:79.7. to earn himself lane choice in round number 2.
Austin Vincent knocks a tire off right of the hit. So your number 1 qualifier on that single run goes to the other end. Yeah, Vincent Performance 801. So that will conclude round 1 of our Super Street category.
In your second round matchup, Austin Vincent will face David Knight, with David Knight having lane choice. Matt Shallow will face Dan Wetstein, with Shallow having lane choice, being low for the round. Connor McGee and Mike Webb go head-to-head with Connor McGee having lane choice in that matchup. Elite Top Dragster, we need you for round number 1, please. Elite Top Dragster, we need you for round number 1, please.
Time for top sportsman Randy Perkinson. Scott will kick things off with their Mustang and over here on the left-hand side of the racetrack. That is Randy Perkinson, a beautiful South Chesterfield, Virginia, base 67 Ford. Dials in at 385. He'll look across the racetrack and eye Scott Wise, another Virginia native, with his split window Hemi-powered Corvette. Scott Wise decides to dial up 0.05 of a second running. Randy dials up 3. 3-second bracket racing coming at you right now. Scott Wise going to leave first. Randy Perkinson has to run him down. They're in. Advantage goes to Scott. Crossed up, pedal fast to the other end, and Scott Wise gets the car to recover. 446, 181 miles an hour. It wasn't pretty, but a wind light shines. There on the right side. Perkinson, 651 and only 62. Perkinson's car went out a little further and encountered issues. Made a violent move, but Scott Wise into round number 2.
Dan Ferguson next out on the left side of the racetrack. The 2000 Viper out of Harrisburg, North Carolina for also Trans. Wilkins Race Engines. He dials in at a 382. And Keith Floyd here on the right-hand side out of Lexington, North Carolina, the 2016 Corvette. He'll be dialed in at a 396.
Elite top sportsman right here on the starting line. You got Dan Ferguson's Viper. Take it on Keith Floyd. Brand new car for them. Lexington, where they call home. Dan Ferguson in the automotive repair industry. Business owner out of Harrisburg. Red light for Floyd, and Ferguson had some issues. Gets the pedal of the car down to the other end at 414. He was 13 green. Keith Floyd, 0.05 of a second too soon.
So a quick check of the racing surface. We'll fire the next pair up. Brian Tiff here on the right-hand side. Out of Middleburg Heights, Ohio, the 2021 Corvette out of the Schween Motorsports camp. Switching over to Fulton horsepower this season, 385 the dial. And Tim Lawrence, left-hand side, 2013 Camaro. They call the Phantom for Bell Trucking and Pro High Wall Mining. Tim dials in out of 398.
So Tim Lawrence, that Albert Power that he has supported for quite a few years, and Dane Wood behind the race car. Up with the tune-up, chassis setup, etc. Brian Tiff started out as a crew guy and worked with the Nyerges and Schwinn camp. And took over driving duties just a few years ago. Red light start for Brian Tiff, and Tim Lawrence sails on down the other end at 395 with the wind light shining. 183 miles an hour for the Princeton, West Virginia Camaro. Tim Lawrence, your winner.
Jeff Simmons out next on the left-hand side. The Jetstream 69 Camaro for Simmons Construction. Stinger Race Fuel. And Textera Fabrication. 392 the dial-in for his machine. And Jeremy Kreisman here on the right-hand side for CNC Chemical. Par Racing Engines. Sam and Dave's Auto Sales. He dials in out of 393. So 392 to a 393.
Nearly 8. Heads up. Match up between Jeff Simmons, Jeremy Greaseman. Lights are on their way down. How about 006 to a perfect reaction time? Win light by 15 thou goes to Jeremy Greaseman this afternoon. 395 to above at 185 miles an hour. Jeff Simmons laid down a nice lap as well. 395, 187 the speed, up the 392 dial, but Jeff Simmons falls up thousandths of a second short.
Yeah, pretty crazy to be 006 and be behind. Bruce Thrift, Brian LaFlamme, our next pair out. Bruce Thrift on the left-hand side out of Waycross, Georgia, the Color Me Gone 08 GTO. Chassis Engineering, TRC Roofing, on board his machine, dials in out of 390. Brian LaFlamme here on the right-hand side out of Mooresville, North Carolina. YO Motorsports, Noonan Race Engineering, Maxima Oil. And we're shutting them off as we have a car stopped on the top end of the racetrack. So we'll have to move that machine before we can send the next pair.
By me.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Unleash the power of performance with the Edelbrock Group. For over 85 years, our legendary brands have been trusted by automotive enthusiasts around the world. From street performance to racing, our innovative solutions, engineering, and testing deliver unmatched power, precision, and reliability. Proudly manufactured in our 7 facilities across the U.S., we stand by the quality of our craftsmanship. The Edelbrock Group, where passion meets performance.
Your 2024 80cc Openweight World Champion.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win.
Formulated to win.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
We drive performance. We drive passion, a background in drag racing, and a future in all forms of motorsports. Because success in one sport isn't enough. Pushing ourselves to be the best, climbing every mountain, topping every peak, until you see Fuel Tech every